Yo, what is going on, LFA youth, and welcome back to 260 and 260. This is day 14, and today we're going to be in Matthew chapter 14. I'm going to be in the New Living Translation, and if you want to follow word for word, you also need to be reading in the New Living Translation. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Matthew chapter 14. The death of John the Baptist. They got him. They got my boy John. When Herod Antipas, the ruler of Galilee, heard about Jesus, he said to his advisors, "This must be John the Baptist raised from the dead. That is why he can do such miracles." For Herod had arrested and imprisoned John as a favor to his wife, Herodias, the former wife of Herod's brother Philip. John had been telling Herod, "It is against the law for you to marry her." So Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of a riot because all the people believed John was a prophet. But at a birthday party for Herod, Herodias' daughter performed a dance that greatly pleased him. So he promised with a vow to give her anything she wanted. At her mother's urging, the girl said, "I want the head of John the Baptist on a tray." Then the king regretted what he had said, but because of the vow he made in front of his guest, he issued the necessary orders. So John was beheaded in the prison, and his head was brought on a tray and given to the girl, who took it to her mother. Later, John's disciples came for his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus what had happened. Verse 13, as soon as Jesus heard the news, he left in a boat to a remote area to be alone. But the crowds heard where he was, and where he was headed, and followed him on foot from many towns. Jesus saw a huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them, and he healed their sick. That evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said, "That isn't necessary. You feed them." "But we have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here," he said. Verse 19, then he told the people to sit down on the grass, and Jesus took 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up toward heaven, and blessed them. Then, breaking the loaves into pieces, he gave the bread to the disciples, who distributed it to the people. They all sat and ate as much as they wanted, and afterwards the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. About 5,000 men were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross over to the other side of the lake, where he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up to the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from the land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3:00 in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once and said, "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, for I am here." And then Peter called out to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over to the side of the boat and walked on water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong winds and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshiped him. "You are really the Son of God," they exclaimed. After they had crossed the lake, they landed at, I'm not even going to attempt to say that, Gennesaret. And when the people recognized Jesus, the news of his arrival spread quickly throughout the whole area, and soon people were bringing all of their sick to be healed, and they begged him to let the sick touch at least the fringe of his robe, and all who touched him were healed. Well, that's going to wrap us up for Matthew chapter 14. I'm proud of you. Keep pushing forward. Day 260 is going to be here before you know it. I'll see you guys for tomorrow, for today, or for day 15 of 260 and 260. I love you guys so much. Bye. Mwah.